So as I mentioned, we're going to start the episode talking about the Kentucky win. Alabama goes to Rupp Arena and gets a big win, 102-97. This game was absolutely electric, start to finish. This was a very, very good offensive game. If you were in for offense, in for modern basketball, that's exactly what you had in this one. Honestly, this game was very similar to as I expected. I thought that Alabama was going to come out with much more fire than they had, obviously, after the loss to Ole Miss. I thought that the team was going to be ready to play on the road. This year, they've done a really good job going on the road. The only loss they had was that Purdue game on the road. And I thought that just in general, this season when they've gone on the road, there's been a fight and a grit to the team. And so I thought that they would have a really good chance. That ends up coming to fruition. I think also Alabama just let the game come to them and did not let certain foul calls or certain things affect them quite as much as Kentucky maybe did in this game. There were some foul calls on both sides that were controversial, but I obviously don't think it was the difference in the game. I think that it may have impacted the game slightly, but I don't think that it was the only thing that was the difference in this game. I do think overall that this was a fairly clean back and forth game that for the most part, the officials kind of let them go. Alabama was taking a little bit more physicality to Kentucky and kind of forcing the officials to make the call. And at times in this game, there were a lot of calls being made. I know Nate at times was upset about some rebounding calls that were made, but by and large, I don't think the officials were the difference in this game. I know some Kentucky fans may feel differently, but I do think that this came down to a situation where Alabama hit some timely shots, especially, the game's tied 81-81. Alabama hit some big threes. They have a big three by Chris Youngblood. LeBaron Philon hits a big three. And just overall, there were some really, really big shots that were hit in crunch time, as well as some big free throws that Alabama hit that has not been the case over the course of the season, right? It was talked about on the broadcast, but Alabama for the season is at 70.8% from the free throw line. In this game, they actually go 29 of 34 for 85%. So Alabama does a really good job not only getting to the line, but also hitting the free throws when they did get there. Largely, that was due to Grant Nelson, Mark Sears, 8 of 9, 9 of 10. Both of those guys did really well. Nate mentioned in the postgame that apparently Grant was upset with himself about how poorly he had shot in the Ole Miss game and went 90 of 100, and then 91 of 100. In back-to-back days in practice. So this was something that Grant was working on and trying to make sure that he didn't cause us problems from the line, and it definitely showed, right? His stroke from the line looked really good, and Grant was locked in from the word go in this game. In the first half of this game, Grant was really the big part of Alabama's offense. Grant has 19 points at the half and really felt like he was able to kind of assert his will. At times, Mark Pope would put in like Travis Perry to try to just have an extra body due to some fouls that Andrew Carr and Jackson Robinson, some foul trouble they were in. And Perry was really being taken advantage of by everybody, but I know there were a couple of times where Grant was able to get the switch, and, Grant was able to take advantage of that. Grant also, we know how Grant likes to drive to the hoop and drive physical, as somebody who's been playing a lot of college basketball, and force the official to make the call. And I think that at times in this game, he was able to kind of assert his will and play with the physicality that we know Grant can do, and be successful in this game. He did hit a couple of threes. He took some that I don't, love to see Grant take, but he had hit the first couple. He airballed one and then hit the next two, and so I think he had some confidence about him for the next shots. You don't love to see the 7 attempts from Grant, but you can live with it. It's not the worst thing in the world. Some other guys that I thought that just played fully within themselves. Cliff Amori, I thought this is one of Cliff's best games in Crimson. He just really was a force down low. He gets a couple of blocks. He does a pretty good job on the glass, finishes with 7 rebounds. He was a really good lob target, really good at fighting around the rim. In general, I will say the front court played a great game. Another guy who just was phenomenal in this game was Mohamed Diabate. He ends up winning the Hard Hat Award, even though he only played 15 minutes. Mo D in those 15 minutes has 8 rebounds, 3 assists, has a steal, does end up fouling out. Some of those were like tough rebounding fouls. You don't hate those. If they call them, they call them. But it really felt like Mo D did some things, and especially in that stretch we were talking about at the 81-81 point, Mo D ends up keeping a couple of balls alive that end up, one of them gets passed out to Chris Youngblood that he hits for a three, and the second one he keeps inbounds and gets passed over to LeBaron Philon to hit the three to go up 9 on that 9-0 run, right? So there were just a couple of moments that it really felt like Mo came up big in those moments, either getting a rebound, getting to the line. He got to the line, had 7 free throws in this game that he attempted. He goes 4 of 7 from the line. You'd like to see that be a little better, but overall, not the end of the world. And just in general, Mohamed Diabate played a really, really big game, was really big at multiple moments in this game, both on defense and on what he was able to do, on the rebounding side of the ball. The other guy that I will say that played a really good game, and it's really what you hope to see out of him kind of moving forward, is Chris Youngblood. I thought that Chris played a great game, plays 24 minutes, ends up with, it looks like 10 points, 1 of 1 from 2, 2 of 3 from the 3-point line, 2 of 2 from the line, right? Chris Youngblood hit the couple of threes that he got, was able to play big defense, and, with his stature, was able to be tough like on Otego Owe, on Lamont Butler. He was able to, be able to match the physicality with some of those guys. And I thought that Chris just really played fully within himself and was able to hit the shots that were timely, right? It wasn't about him hitting 10 threes, right? He only hit 2, but he hit the threes when you needed them, and they were threes that were fully within rhythm. They were fully, within the offense, and it really helped us get to that point. Another guy that you have to talk about is LeBaron Philon, right? When we talk about Philon, he was my player to watch. If you read the pregame threads that I put out on Twitter, he was my player to watch. And the thing with LeBaron is that really surprised me is he apparently has worked on his 3-point shot a good bit. Nate had made some comments about after the Ole Miss game, if you want to be a good shooter, you got to put in the work. You got to do this and that. And apparently LeBaron had been working a good bit, and he goes 3 of 5 from 3, right? This is one of LeBaron's best 3-point shooting nights. Again, this is not somebody that Chris Youngblood on the other side, you do expect to be a good shooter. He's been a career very good 3-point shooter. But LeBaron Philon this season has not been the best 3-point shooter. He's been really good at getting to the hole, finishing around the rim and such, but LeBaron has not been a 3-point shooter, and he hit some really timely threes in this game. None bigger than the one that puts you up 90-81, but I know he hit a couple of corner threes, and this was just a really, really good game out of LeBaron. I thought that on the road he's done a great job this season, playing within himself and not letting the moment get too big. We thought that he had a little bit of a slump in those first couple of games in SEC play, but to be able to bounce back on the road in Rupp Arena, have 15 points, 4 assists, to play at the level that he did, I thought that it was just really, really good to see. And then obviously Mark Sears, 24 points, has just an incredible game, 9 assists just to 1 turnover. I thought that he was able to facilitate the offense. I thought that he was able to he was not the best 3-point shooter at times in this game, but he, again, was able to hit those timely threes when we needed them most. And I thought that that's what mattered, right? Maybe not his best shooting performance ever, but was able to finish with 24 points, hits 4 threes, 8 of 9 from the line, 9 assists, right? You really got to like what you saw out of Mark Sears. I thought that overall, he was able to facilitate the offense. And I thought that overall, he was obviously a spark in this game. He had to be a little careful as it relates to he only ended up with 1 turnover, but dribbling around Lamont Butler and Otega Owe, some of the better defenders, you just have to be careful because Kentucky is not known as a team that's going to turn you over a lot, but they do have some good individual defenders like Lamont Butler that can definitely cause some problems. The thing for me that I would look at in this game that I think was the most important thing if you're looking to the next games was how well Alabama was able to take the counterpunch, right? To start the game, Alabama goes on actually a pretty big run, or Kentucky starts up a little bit. Alabama goes on a run. And it really felt like, okay, maybe Alabama's going to find the offense and Alabama's going to keep Kentucky at arm's reach. But then at certain moments in this game, Kentucky's able to fight back, and this is just a really well-coached team. Credit to Mark Pope. This is a completely different team than it was under Calipari. This is a much more modern offense. This is a much tougher out. Just a really good coach. And I thought that at times, and especially like the under 12 timeout, Kentucky really gave Alabama a huge, effort and a huge, push that I thought that Kentucky was going to be able to flip the script, right? Alabama's up. Otega Owe gets a steal off an inbound, or we inbound the ball. Grant goes to throw it up. We get a steal, and then he scores that point. They end up getting a charge call on Grant. You get a couple of momentum plays there in a row, and it really felt like the momentum had completely shifted in Kentucky's favor. But credit to Alabama, they were able to withstand that, put up, hey, we need to fight for the rebounds. We got to do what it takes to be able to get the momentum back, get a couple of big shots, get to the line, hit some free throws, hit a three, and kind of take the crowd out of it, right? And that's what I thought was the most important thing that Alabama did in this game, is that at moments Kentucky really felt like they were fighting back and were not rolling over. And at times you've seen Alabama and any other team where they have a team at arm's length, then that team is able to come back, and it's really hard to keep putting a team away time and time and time again. You then let the team that came back take the lead, and when they take the lead, they never relinquish it. And it really felt like the thing that Alabama did the best in this game is, even though they were on the road, even though they were in a hostile place to play, even though Kentucky was hitting some big shots, they were able to kind of keep them at arm's length, sit down, defend as well as they could, play within themselves, not try to do too much, and then inevitably come out with the win, right? Get the offense back moving, come out with the win, and at the end of the day, you win this game by 5 in Rupp Arena. Were you up by a little bit more? Sure. I thought Kentucky did a good job. They hit a couple of threes near the end, kept putting you at the line that makes the score be what it is. But I thought that overall, credit to Kentucky. This is a really good team. That was a really tough place to play. I thought that Alabama was able to do just enough to win this game, but I think that it definitely could have gone the other way, right? So I think that the matchup in Coleman Coliseum is going to be another really good one. I think that both of these teams match up very well against each other, so I would be, very curious to see what kind of things Mark Pope is going to have ready for next time around. Alabama did not have Darion Reed in this game. It's the last thing I will mention. Alabama did not have Darion Reed in this game. I am not sure if he will be playing in the Vanderbilt game or not. I know if you watched my preview, I was under the expectation maybe he was sitting for Ole Miss with the expectation he was going to be playing for Kentucky. It sounds like he, is still progressing but is not there yet. My gut says he may not play in the Vanderbilt game due to the fact that it's a Tuesday game. If it was a Wednesday game, maybe. But I'm not the medical staff, so we will keep an eye on what happens as it relates to the availability reports. The most recent availability report prior to him being out for this game was that he was questionable, right? So if we move from questionable to probable, then we probably have a very good chance that he plays. But as of this moment, it looks like Darion Reed is going to be out for maybe another game. And so we will probably be playing shorthanded for another game. So that is the only other thing I will mention as it relates to this game from an Alabama standpoint, is that, we were without Darion Reed, and he's somebody that I think definitely could have contributed in this game. Personally, I think that a guy like Latrell Wrightsell was missed a little bit more in this game just due to the three-point shooting and how well he plays in the flow, especially with a fast-paced game like Kentucky, with the guards that they have. But obviously Alabama is able to go in to Rupp Arena and win, even shorthanded, and get the win, right? So it's exactly what you want to see. Awesome to see. Just really, really great. Ole Miss actually does drop a game to Mississippi State, so now Alabama's back tied kind of for second in the conference. But, we kind of survive in advance and move on to the next game.